Hi everybody, Steve, Katie here with Jen. Say hi, Jen.
Hi everyone, Jen Sarusik here.
And we are going to walk you through the instructional guide for the Change Handbook. As you know, the first edition had uh, somewhere around 18 methods or approaches. The second edition, over 60. And then in the third edition, we have over 200 different ones we've identified. More keep coming in every day. We're looking at a growing body of knowledge. We are looking at the printed version of the book will be about the same size as the second edition. And at the same time, we're looking at representing this growing body of knowledge in so many different formats and different ways that will be helpful to all kinds of people around the world that need access to the work that you're doing. And so we'll have print on demand, we'll have digital, we'll have an app, and those kinds of things. The purpose of this video here is to give you an instructional guide or an overview of what you need to get started and have a really good support system of materials and so forth. You first received a confirmation email, and the email that you received outlined, hey, here's the guide, which is a document that you can read. It's in PDF, or go to a link and click on the link to see it. You can also go to the instructional video, which you're watching right now, and you can look at the slides, the instructional video, and you can also attend. We're going to have a live online session to support you, and that's going to be on October 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So we have a variety of things here, and what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through to the best of our ability in a brief period of time and go over all the different deliverables and what's due for the Change Handbook. To begin, we just want to introduce ourselves. So we've got me, Steve, Katie, and that's me and Deacon and Roman and Jackie and Logan. And then you got next to me is Jen, and Jen is there with her handsome husband. And then we've got Brian, our media coordinator, and he's there with his big smile. And so the three of us are going to support you. Really, Jen and I are going to be mostly supporting you. And so one of the things that we want you to see there is you got our email as well as our phone number. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can call, text, and I think sometimes texting, and make sure you text with your name. Say, hey, this is so and so, just so we know it's you, and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you, have a question, and maybe a little bit about it or something along those lines. But we want to be super available to you. Jen, you want to say anything about people contacting you or anything along those lines?
Sure, anytime you need anything urgent, I believe text is the fastest way to get a hold of me. Again, please include your name, but please feel free to call or send an email, and I will always get back to you as soon as possible.
And so between Jen and I, we'll be working with you to get your manuscript completed and get it in the right shape so that it goes to Barrett Kohler in good form. Brian is working on, he put together the website, which is awesome for the Change Handbook. When you go there, you can see how a super nice job he's done. And he's providing a variety of other integrated media tools together to help us stay connected and to grow the community of practice and to help us get your method out there, your approach out there in front of people, and so that we can create a larger impact together than we can alone. With that, I would start off by saying that I've got a super passion for collaborative process, and I really believe that right now in this period of time with all the great work being done around the world, the gems that are in all these different places, I keep hearing about new techniques and approaches, and I go read up on them and I look them up and I talk to people, and I'm just amazed at how many people out there in the world are doing some great work. And I'm inspired by the opportunity to build on the work that was done with Peggy and Tom in the first edition. And then they invited me into the second edition, and which was such an honor and a privilege. And I got to get to know you, many of you out there, for that second edition, and really came to love this body of knowledge. And I teach two classes on it. I teach a class in that started out in 1996 is called Large Group Methods, and I pulled from Billy and Barbara's work. I pulled from Peggy and Tom, Susan Morman, and then I a whole stack of articles. And with all of that, I started exploring how do we teach a class on large scale change. I met Kathy Dannemiller soon after because I'm up in northern Ohio at Bowling Green State University. Kathy's over at University of Michigan. People said, you need to meet Kathy. Kathy took me under her wing, mentored me for many years, and really taught me the love of this work and the important core values and principles of doing good collaborative change work. And so I just feel super blessed, and I'm just continue to be motivated to find a way for us to build our body of knowledge as a legitimate field of scholarship and practice that really can do greater work in the world together than we can alone, like I've mentioned. Jen, you want to talk a little bit about why this is important to you and why you care about it?
Sure. So I am a graduate of the Bowling Green State University's Executive Masters of Organization Development, and collaboration has always been my passion and driven my career. I was formerly a high school science teacher, and then I took the leap into corporate world, where I have served as a recruiter for both executive and high volume work streams. I currently am the recruitment consultant for a Fortune 300 company, and my mission in life is to connect people and create space for meaningful conversation. The Change Handbook was foundational in my graduate studies, and I am thrilled to have the privilege to be a part of bringing this next edition to publication.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that you decided to join me on this journey. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And we've really worked hard for everybody out there that are listening to this. We've worked super hard to put in place a structure and a process to make it smooth for you in creating your manuscript and getting it submitted and so forth. And Brian will continue to provide us with the platform, the technology to help us set the stage for getting the word out in a greater, bigger, more meaningful way to the world, and connect all of us that are doing this work in the community of communities with all the people out there that need the support of the methods and approaches and our expertise that we're bringing to them. So the selection criteria is grounded in the first edition, the second edition, a lot of meetings with people that participated in the Nexus for Change conference in 2007, to people that have been a part of focus groups, and we continue to evolve what are the underlying core elements of the methods that distinguish them from other methods, or what makes it important for us to make sure we go out and find you and include you. First is around purpose, transformational, impactful, that your approach is focused on transforming organizations and communities in an impactful way, that it's a systemic focus, including diversity of voices and perspectives and stakeholder groups, and that it's inclusive and ensures that people have voice, that the journey is both collaborative and engaging, and that it's clear, that the evidence for your approach is grounded and established, that there is not only is there anecdotal evidence, but there is solid theory and research that you're drawing from that inform the development. It can be interdisciplinary perspectives. It doesn't have to be directly related, but drawing from a variety of different perspectives, and that your approach is established, that it's got a track record of success, and that you can demonstrate that it is having an impact. The other piece is around reach, that the approach is understandable, that there's some printed content, there's books, there's articles, there's a website, there are workshops, there are frameworks that are designed and put together in a way that are understandable to the people out there that read it and review it. They can get it, they can understand it, and that it's well explained. Second is that there's a network of people, professionals, scholars, leaders, practitioners, students, academics, people that are connecting around the work, your approach, and utilizing your approach, examining your approach, and advancing it, and as a community of practice, if you will. Finally, the values. The core values as we look at including methods is that we want to make sure that the methods that we include are diverse, that they're coming from around the world, they're representing both ethnic, gender, international diversity and perspectives. We can even think of type of organizations and communities, from profit, nonprofit, government, higher education, community-based organizations, and that the methods are generally available, that people are providing the kinds of written and other types of resources and materials that allow people to actually use it in a variety of situation settings. They're not protecting it to the point that nobody has access to it, but they're making it available to the world the best they can within the context of needing to protect it so that they can use it themselves. So, for example, what's interesting, Jen, is if you don't trademark your work, or if you don't copyright your work, someone else could come along and take it and copyright it. And so somebody might say, well, are you really making it available? And I would say yes, is because sometimes you have to take it, you have to protect it so that you can give it away. And I think people are doing that. So we want to make sure that we're supporting people and finding ways to build their content, share their content, and honor the integrity of their content. Any thoughts from you, Jen, on what I've shared?
No, I think that that is all wonderful, and I would just like to piggyback that we are very excited to help you share this content with the world through the Change Handbook.
Right on. And so some of the new features in the book are that there's going to be updated chapters. So we've got a variety of the chapters from the second edition are getting updated. The two main areas in the chapters that are being updated are that the story is being revised. So we're inviting the authors to bring in a newer story or a more compelling story to introduce their chapter. And the second thing is we're asking authors to look at the role of technology both online and on site to facilitate their work, and what role is technology playing in on site work as well as virtually and facilitating distance type of collaboration. The other piece is we're asking people to share their personal bookshelf or their favorite books, whatever those books might be. Peggy really thought this worked well for the first edition. It wasn't done for the second edition, and she advised and suggested that we do that. And she found that people really love seeing a collective bookshelf. So we're going to have a chapter that's going to represent the collective bookshelf of all the people that are contributing to the book, to the Change Handbook. The other piece is new approaches and chapters. We're going to have a variety, like I mentioned, over 200, and we have approaches being suggested every day through the website, being emailed to me and to Jen and so forth. We are bringing them all in. We are exploring them. We're gathering information on them. We're putting them into the database, and then we're looking at the criteria and we're figuring out how to include people that fit the criteria. And if they are brand new and emerging methods to established methods, we want to make sure that we're bringing them in and give them an opportunity to be heard and be seen and to advance their work. For the newer ones, we want to provide an avenue for them to develop their method better by connecting them into the more established methods. They can learn from people that have done really well. They can advance their method even better, and we can give them a platform to reach more people, to help more people in the work that they're doing. The digital and print on demand, we're looking at a variety of formats, as I mentioned, for making it available. So we'll have the Change Handbook will be approximately the same size as it was for the second edition. But we'll also have a digital element to it. We'll have a password or an access code that's going to enable people to go to a portal and get additional content, tools, assessments, connect into the network, find more approaches because we will be adding more approaches. I have a suspicion that we're going to, after we get done with the Change Handbook, we're still going to have more coming in, and we'll be pulling them in, creating more content and putting it in so we keep it alive and a living body of content. The organizing taxonomy has evolved. We've had a lot of feedback from students and users of the book and practitioners. And so we've organized, and I'll be sharing that taxonomy in a minute, which is a part of the outline. The selection matrix, we'll be modifying that to complement the taxonomy, and we'll be looking at using the matrix. We're looking at different ways to have the matrix be in the book, and we'll also look at it being available digitally and some other creative ways. Then there's the real life stories. So what we're looking at is the intro story for your approach. That intro story is going to be short. It's going to be a teaser. It's going to be like a trailer for a movie with a little bit extra. And so they'll get enough to be inspired, excited, and want to read more about your approach. At the same time, it won't be enough. And so then we're going to ask you to take and then expand that 500-word intro story into 2,000 to 4,000 word story. And then we're going to take all the stories and we're going to have a companion book called Stories of Amazing Change. I can tell you that some people have said they would rather read that first and then the Change Handbook second. I think Emily Axelrod said that. She said this would be exciting, and so a lot of people are very excited about that. And then we're also going to create a community of communities index in the book. So what are all the different communities out there that are gathering together and doing work and bringing people together to help them advance their skill set? This book is for people that are doing this work in the world, looking for the approaches that they can use in their communities and organizations to create real deep change and transformative change in their organizations and communities. And so the communities index is going to be a great place where people say, I'd like to find it. So, what's available out there for me to join, for me to learn more. And so we're going to have this index that's going to continue to be evolving, but it will also be available as a part of the book, and then we'll have it digitally available. There'll be a lot more that we'll be adding as we learn and continue to be focused on our mission of helping everybody that's doing the good work in the world all over the place, all these gems, helping them to connect with each other, helping them to advance their work individually and collectively, and helping for all of us to make these approaches accessible so people can do better work in their communities and organizations and advance this as a field. Jen, anything that you want to add?
Just that I'm one of those people that's very excited to read the stories of real life amazing change.
Yeah, and I remember when I was sharing that with you, you were like, yes, I want to read that too. And so here's the sample book outline. So you begin, you can go to the tinyurl.com and get the outline and look at it as a document. It's also available in the guide that you were given. So all of what we're sharing with you is all in the printed guide. The sample outline, and you can see here what I said here, basically it provides a broad overview of the more detailed outline. So this is, the intention here is to help you get a sense of the overall outline for the book. This is going to shift a little bit as we learn a little bit more, getting into completing the book. Generally, what we have is a taxonomy. We've got domains, families and subfamilies, approaches, and then activities. And so domains follow the cycle of mastery. The book is for professionals that are utilizing the methods in their communities and organizations. So this cycle of mastery is about how that person develops their mastery in doing this work in the world. It begins with method mastery, which is people start out by learning a method, typically adopting an approach, one approach, or an approach, and they learn the approach and memorize the approach, if you will. And as they begin to practice it, they begin to hear about other techniques and other activities and other types of things. And they begin to bring that in and weave it in or mix and match it. And as a result, they begin blending solutions for a particular situation that it has unique needs. And then they start becoming really good at taking that method that they mastered. Now they're mastering other methods, bringing them a collection of methods together, and they begin weaving them together, blending them into solutions for a specific situation. What happens over time as that person does that, they will weave together, mix and match the methods and the activities within the methods into a solution, and they'll go, that really had a great impact. Let me do that same string of activities. Let me take that string, let me do that string again. And then they do the string again because it had such a predictable, beneficial result. Before long, that series or that sequence of blending together begins to take on a life of its own, to the point that someone says, well, what do you call it? Why, just blending together all stuff? Well, you've been using it now 3, 4, 5, 15 times, and it really is its own method. It's its own approach. And so you go from the invention, now that inventor has invented a technique or an approach, and it's a new method. So what we're looking at is we organize the book around methods, methodological approaches, blend approaches, and invention approaches. And what you'll find is that within each of the domains of method, blend, or invention, you could have families and subfamilies within that. And so this outline and taxonomy is evolving, but we've got a pretty good starting point for a nice taxonomy for bringing everything together. At the core, what helps to define the taxonomy is a natural grouping of modalities. And what that is you can really understand something when you look at its core behavior. And so while a method or approach may draw from a lot of different activities and other kinds of things, what you want to do is get at its core. What is the core modality that it uses, that it builds out from? So that's how we've organized around these natural grouping of modalities. And we are taking and putting them all together into this particular outline that you see here. So the book is going to have a foreword and a prologue. It'll have an introduction. It'll go through foundations of collaborative change, looking at historical perspective. It'll look at scholar practitioner perspectives. Peggy is going to do a chapter This is a title of what she's been working on lately and speaking about lately around emergence and complexity in action. Tom has been really hot on the essential bookends. What do you do before and after an event? And he's been working on that. And then we'll move into what's the taxonomy and how does the taxonomy and the cycle of mastery that I've been describing to you just now, how does that all work, which will then flow into the selection matrix and a really nice table that will allow people to mix and match and think about how or what method or approach they can pick for a particular situation or setting. So then you've got the methodological approaches, and these are in alphabetical order, these families. There are, what you can see here is you can see 9 families. There will be more, I'm sure, as we go. These are the ones that have emerged over the last several years. First area is arts. What you can see in the arts is you can see this domain family having a subfamily of visual, musical, theatrical, dance, story, and installation. So these right here, these 6 areas, these are 6 subfamilies of arts and collaborative arts, if you will. Examples are visual explorer, drum cafe, playback theater, collective story, and there's more. So under each one, visual, musical, theatrical, dance, story, and installation, there are a group of collaborative approaches that are being used in organizations and communities. And so we will be describing them underneath those subfamilies. Then we go down to community-based approaches. So the domain family overview, there really is no subfamilies here for community, and you'll see that there's not a lot of subfamilies. So we'll introduce the community body or the community family, if you will, and then we'll look at these approaches such as reconciliation, which really goes back to truth and reconciliation, which has now evolved from truth and reconciliation to things such as gender reconciliation and other perspectives. And so we're going to be looking at, there's going to be a chapter looking at reconciliation. Another one is abundant community around Peter Block and John McKnight's work. Another one is community spirit, and there's more. So then you go to data approaches. You got balanced scorecard, lean and Six Sigma, and data analytics. And then you move down to dialogue-based approaches. You got appreciative inquiry, World Cafe, charrettes, real-time strategic change, and future search. You move from that to games and game-oriented approaches. And then you have, again, when it says domain family overview, that is going to be an introduction, a definition, and defining opening chapter that defines what this family is and sets the stage for describing each of the individual methods. Under games, you've got Lego Serious Play, Think Like a Genius, gamification, and so there's even more, but those are some of the approaches there. Then you move into another one that's quite interesting, that is introspection or reflection. So when you look at collaborative introspection or reflection, this is different from a lot of the other families in that it's a group method that focuses on creating individual reflection and action. Whereas most of the other approaches here, the other families focus on group approaches to facilitate group and system-wide action. The introspection and reflection perspective is focused on group-oriented system-level interaction that facilitates individual action, individual growth and development and action. And the reason this is in here is because there's been a lot of talk about self as instrument and use of self and the importance that plays in this work. And particularly now when you look at T groups, Gestalt, the HI lab, and family, you can look at these different approaches, and they all are really important to our work that we do. The next one is learning. You can look at the domain family overview. We'll describe that, and then it moves into the method chapters under learning, which is active learning, learning maps, flipped classroom, flipped meetings, and then after action review. And then you got project and change management, again, domain overview, and then that moves into what that introduces the methods, PMBOK, Agile, 2-minute drill, scenario planning. Then you move to technology, domain family overview, methods, and platforms. So this one has got a little bit of unique twist looking at the role of technology. And you can look at technology from the perspective of on-site and online. I like Amy Lenzo's way of thinking about it. She was talking about what's a kind of a nice way of describing on-site, online. And I like that. And there's an elegance to that. And you got the method chapters like We Dialogue, which Amy does, OST Online. There are others. You also got the platforms, the technologies like Zoom, Google, GoToMeeting, Maestro Conference, and KikoChat. And embedded in some of these are collaborative principles like Maestro and KikoChat have collaboration embedded in them. So that's the overarching beginning. That's the first domain, methodological approaches. Then you move into the blending approaches, mixing and matching. And you got an overview of the blending approaches, and then you can look at the different types of blending approaches that have emerged over the last 10, 15 years. That's liberating structures, the art of hosting, collaborative loops, perspectivity, and there's more. And then after blending, so you've got domain 1, method, domain 2, blend, in the cycle of mastery, then you move to invention. And remember, invention isn't about what the organization is doing. This taxonomy is for the professional who is utilizing the methodologies in the world. It's about our community of practitioners, facilitators, leaders, consultants, change agents, and so forth. Educators that are advancing this work in the world in some fashion, advancing collaborative, whole system, large group work in the world. So what is it that they do? How is it that, when you take World Cafe, how did David and Juanita go about inventing World Cafe? How did Jake Jacobs invent real-time strategic change? Or Harrison with open space? Or Sandra and Marv with Future Search? And the list goes on, with Cooper Ryder and the group around Appreciative Inquiry. Somehow they developed a technique, an approach that built a huge network of professionals, and that grew into a very elegant framework that people could use, that was accessible, going back to those criteria, and made a difference in transforming organizations, that was impactful and so forth. So with that, when you look at the framework here, this is looking at, for those people that are going to be building and inventing new approaches, how do you design new approaches? Author them, brand them, train, coach, and consult with them, evaluate them, and build a strong network around them. So that's what we're looking at here. And what are the approaches out there that help people do that? We got the 6 design elements that go into collaborative or any methodology. So 6 design elements for methodologies. We've got the artist way, social entrepreneurship, cell theory. There's a variety of things. We'll have some chapters that will be describing different aspects of designing, authoring, branding, training, coaching, consulting, evaluating, and networking. Now, after we're done with all of that, we have gone through the 3 domains in the cycle of mastery: method mastery, blend mastery, and invention mastery. What's next? One-page approaches, the one-page summaries, and that will be similar to what was done in the second edition. From there, we move to looking at the future of collaborative change. Then we got the Community of Communities directory, and an epilogue. Tom will be providing an epilogue that will wrap up the book. Jen, your thoughts?
I just have one comment that I appreciate how fantastically organized all of this information is. So thank you.
Oh, cool. And what, Jen, so just from a perspective, could you say a little bit more about how it helps you, or when you say how it's organized and you like how it's organized, could you say a little bit more about that, what you mean by that?
Sure. So when I was in grad school, for us who were not considered experts at the time, it was nice for us to be able to go to the Change Handbook in its former edition and kind of search for what we needed. I think with this 3rd edition, it's going to be even more powerful, because as someone who is either learning a new method or learning how to blend methods together, this is designed perfectly for someone who may be a novice or who wants to learn a new skill. Look at the book and pinpoint exactly what direction they need to go and provide them with enough information that they can learn on their own. And then with the Community of Communities directory, reach out if they need help. So I think with it being organized in this fashion, it's really going to enable a lot of people to do the good work that's needed.
Awesome. And so we got the author guide, which is what was sent to you in the original, in your confirmation email. And so the author guide has everything that we're describing in a lot more detail than we can describe here. And so you'll have links to all the individual documents and a variety of things. So when you open up your guide, you can see that you have my email, Jen's email, our cell phones. Call us, get a hold of us. We are here for you to help you get everything done. Got the Start Here video, which you're watching now. And you watch this video and you can fast forward through it. Some of you may want to go right to the meat, which is coming up in terms of the specific requirements and the details. I'm thinking about myself. I'm hoping we're spending an appropriate amount of time on things and that it's helpful to you. And then we go into the deliverables. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is what is being asked of you. You have your author agreement. You have the chapter, your main chapter, 2,000 to 4,000 words. For those of you that have contributed a chapter that was a thumbnail or a short chapter in the second edition, you can now expand yours to between 2,000 and 4,000 words, your choice. For those of you that are new, you have that range, 2,000 to 4,000 words. I recommend. We can't go over 4,000 words, and I recommend you stay, kind of in that range, 2,000 to 4,000, based on what you need. That creates a 15 to 20-minute reading time. And really, you want to think about the chapter isn't the end-all, be-all. It is an introduction, a gateway into your approach that will help someone know enough to say, I want to know more and I would like to use this. I can tell you, I have had students, countless, that have read the Change Handbook before we even got into learning about the various methods, have gone off and done a World Cafe or an open space or done an appreciative interview or some particular technique in their organization, emailing and saying, hey, look, I got it. This is great. I'm on fire for this. I want to take it out into the world and use it in my organization. And we need it now. I don't want to wait until the first residency to get there. And so they go off and they start doing it. And you know what? Somebody might say, well, they need training before they do it. Or they need this or they need that. Here's what I would offer. They're going to have that gathering anyway. They're going to take your approach, and maybe they're not going to do it perfectly, but they are going to do it in a way that's going to make a much better positive and meaningful impact, than if they hadn't done anything at all and just had the gathering or the meeting or whatever it might be, or the event. So in so many ways, these methods that you have all created, that you've created, are robust. And what I mean by that is, in spite of them not being perfectly practiced, or in spite of limitations that have been missed, in spite of that, they take what you've offered. They're able to take it and do good work in the world, and it's robust. It's having an effect in spite of not being perfectly done, and that's awesome. So your chapter is not intended to give people everything they need to know. It is intended to get them excited about it, and it's intended to give them the information they need to get started, and it's intended to give them a pathway to learning more, joining your community, getting connected in with you, and building their skill set with your workshops and reading more of your books and your articles and so forth. So it's really intended to get them enough to know that they want to dive in deeper with you. The quick summary speaks for itself. It's in the book. You'll see examples. It's one page, it's 500 words and so forth. It's a reference tool that'll help the reader kind of draw a distinction among the methods. It's great flipping back and forth. The real life story is this new piece. We're going to take your chapter, the opening story, and you're going to do that in 500 words. In the expanded story, you're going to take the 500 and tell them the rest of the story. And I think the intention is to encourage them, give them hope and confidence, and help bring to life the meaningful and the importance of the work that you're doing. Bring it to life in verbal, visual, and visceral ways that really gives a person a sense of hope, for the lack of a better word, and confidence, and it encourages them. Jen, you want to add anything here?
No, just that I think as long as your real life story paints a very vivid picture for someone and inspires passion, I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to this the Change Handbook book.
What got you excited about the idea of the story as opposed to maybe just a chapter in the Change Handbook? You like the Change Handbook. What got you really excited about this?
I think in the second edition, there were short stories which showed that the method, how it was effective and how it could be used in real life. I think the real life story in the third edition, I don't know, I think being able to hear more details, being able to share the story of how you shared this with the world, I don't know, something about it just kind of lit me on fire.
Good, cool. So here's the timeline. We're looking at the first draft of your chapter due on January 15th. You do your chapter and your one-page summary, and not the story just yet. You can be working on the story. It's not due until the next month. So what we need is your chapter, your one-page summary. We need that by January 15th. We'd like to get the author agreements. We're going to work to get those sooner. I could probably say I'd like to get those in by November, December, get the agreements in and so forth. That then moves to February. After you submit your chapter and your one-page summary by January 15th, you can shift your attention to your real life story and begin working on that. And you probably are working in parallel on them. So you take your real life story, bring it more to life, and submit that by February 12th. On February 12th, you'll also get feedback from your editorial team, and you'll get the feedback you need to make revisions to the chapter and the one-page summary. You'll get that feedback and begin working on your revisions. Then we will take the real life story, we'll begin reviewing that and preparing feedback for you on that and getting the feedback to you. So then by March 12th, we would like to have publisher feedback. So we're going to send your information that the publisher is going to review and is going to provide some feedback on things that might have to do with images and some other kinds of things. We're going to be working on really concretizing or formalizing all your chapter, the illustrations, the permissions, and those kinds of things. So we'll be getting some publisher feedback by the 12th. In addition to that, you'll get your editorial team and your publisher feedback on your real life story by March 12th. So by then, we should be in really good shape to be putting the final touches on things as we move to the final manuscript by April 2nd and the real life story final manuscript by April 2nd, and everything's done. We got time in there to get things done sooner. It's not these are kind of our target deadlines. So if you get things done sooner, that's fine. We'll turn feedback around to you. You might have a different timeline that you need, a faster timeline, maybe a slower timeline. If you need changes in the timeline to help you get this done, we want you in the Change Handbook. It's important that you're a part of it. So we will do whatever we can to try to work around this timeline to help support you and what you've got going on in your work, your world, your family, life, to help you get this done and be a part of this with us. Jen, you want to elaborate a little bit on this from your perspective?
Sure, absolutely. Just make sure that you're letting us know what you need so that we can support you the best way possible.
So, author agreement. This is the first thing. When you open that, you've received the author agreement as a Word document. All you got to do is put the date, put the author names in, insert your chapter title, insert your story title, and you sign it and send it in to us. The challenge is, and I've been trying to think if there's an easy way around this. If you got multiple authors, I'm not sure if there's an easy way around it other than somehow a round robin signing, a scanning, sign, scan, sign, scan, sign, scan, sign, scan, and then send it into me, something along those lines. So there might be a few different ways that you can do that. You can take the sign page. Everybody can sign that, and then you attach them all at the end and scan it and send it to me. As long as we got signatures, it's attached to the agreement. You got the information here. You got the author's names. I think we're in good shape. And you send me an email that says, "Hey, everybody's signed and we're all on board." I think we should be in pretty good shape with that. The chapter and page summary. So what you are provided here is you're given in the guide. You're getting an outline. And so when you go through, you can see down below the chapter outline, 2,000 to 4,000 words. You can go to the outline, and it lays everything out and provides you with instruction and direction around the outline. I think what we're going to do is we're also going to add in a little video that's just focused on the outlines that you can listen to just on the chapter outline, just on the one-page summary, just on the story, and so forth. So I think we'll be providing additional support videos for you that will be within the outline, and we'll send it out and so forth. So you're going to have the outline with the guide. You're going to have a template Word doc. So you're going to get the Word doc that you see, and you're going to be able to use that Word doc and just start filling it in. It lays out the headers, the subheaders, the fonts, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have examples. You got the whole book provided as a link in the guide. So when you look in the guidebook, you're going to see a link page. It's page, I think, 2 or 3. And you can just go down and you can get the whole book and look at all the different chapters, both as a PDF or as Word documents. You can look at all of them. And as far as new elements, as I mentioned, for those of you that have done the second edition, you're going to update your opening story. In there, you're going to also address the role of tech for online and on-site. And you're going to add information from your personal bookshelf. And this bookshelf is not just collaborative change. It's what are your if you were to give a person your list of your top 5 or 10 books that you would recommend reading, that anybody can read, that you found most important in your life, we'd like you to share that. It's not that it's limited to collaboration and change. It's your most important books that you would recommend, your short list of most important books. You got the one-page summary outline there, and it outlines that. So then when you go to the word templates, like I mentioned, you also in addition to the outline, you've got a Word document template. And you'll be able to kind of fill in, like I said, you can put your title in, you put the author's names in, you put your epigraph in, you put the title of your real life story in, you put the basics in, you put subheaders in, you can type in and do all the content there. So it's laid out for you to jump right on in. And that will be these will be provided to you both as links as well as attached to your email. Jen, anything you want to say about this?
No, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. If anything in the template or the examples are not clear, just let us know and we can provide any kind of clarification or answers to questions you might have.
Perfect. So the real life story. I've spoken to it. It's a new feature. Many authors and readers have mentioned they love this idea. You got an outline provided as a guide, and the outline is loose. So I'm really looking for you to take creative license and tell your story within the context of that 2,000 to 4,000 words. You'll get a Word document template provided as attachment, a link in the guide. I provide a variety of resources about telling great story and writing about stories and fictional stories to essays and so forth. So read all of that information. A lot of you are great storytellers. Tell your story and bring it to life, and just use what I provided to you there in the outline as a suggestion on getting started and some things to think about. And have fun with this. Really have fun sharing an inspiration. And I might even say have fun and be inspired in sharing your story. So the authoring manual, when you go to the guide and you go to the very end, it's provided at the end of the guide. You're going to see authoring manual. If that's been updated and revised and it's focused just for you as a contributing author to the Change Handbook. Some of the key points: submit your manuscript to Jen and I in a Word. Do not put illustrations into your manuscript. In your manuscript, in your Word, you want to say insert figure 1 here, insert table 2 here, insert photo 1 here. Title the document, title the file figure 1, table 1, and so forth. Try to use some type of beginning in your file names for your manuscript and other things that might be the key word, sort of your running header. The key word for the file is at the beginning, so it'd be like, you might have, let's say for whole scale change in Kathy's work, you might say whole scale manuscript, whole scale figure 1, whole scale table 1, whole scale photo 1, whole scale one-page summary, whole scale real life story, that kind of thing. So you do something along those lines so that it's nice to keep it organized amongst you, the people you share with, and so forth. So it's kind of like your code word for that. The next thing is the author creates and provides their own illustrations. Talking with Barrett Kohler, trying to have someone else create it or figuring out a system of creating won't work. A lot of people have their illustrations and figures and so forth already done for a variety of publications. Just reuse those. Provide yourself permission to use them in the book. So if you even created it, you need to fill out a permission and say you give permission for you to use it in this chapter. So provide the illustrations only as TIFFs in 1200 dpi or better. So make sure you do that. No GIF, JPEG, nothing like that. Those are called lossy or lossy formats. Don't use any of those. It must be TIFF 1200 dpi. Photos 300 dpi or better. And make sure you use the permission form for any of the figures and charts and so forth that you use. It's pretty straightforward. It's all provided in the guide. You just fill it out and you just attach it. And you attach it with what you submit with your manuscript. So last but not least, we have a summit. We are going to be in May 16th through the 19th. We'll start on the evening of the 16th, which is a Wednesday, go through Friday, and that's the 18th. And then on the 19th, on Saturday, we are going to facilitate a networking day around these topics here: authoring, content, research, training, consulting, and networking. We're going to create conditions for people who want to author a book, take their method further, take their approach, or find different ways to to take their work out bigger in the world in printed and digital form. We're going to have a group meeting around that. We'll have a group meeting around advancing research on the methods and advancing the data and the evidence. We'll have a working group that will work on how to do training and development to better take your approach out in the world. Maybe a blended design where you take 3 or 4 and you want to do a thing. You may already have training and workshops you want to do, and you want to connect them into a larger group of training and workshops so that we can attract more people to them. Because, like, for example, you have one shoe store at a mall, gets $100,000 in sales, put 2 in the mall, they don't get 50,000 a piece or compete for the 100,000. It's not a limited pie or resource perspective. Literally, both can end up getting $150,000 to $200,000 in sales. By bringing your work together and your training together and finding more creative ways to do it, you'll actually create more of a buzz, a hub, and create more traffic and more people coming and wanting to learn about it because it's together in one spot. We're going to try to find ways to make that possible so that you can get your work out individually and collectively in meaningful, impactful, and bigger ways. Also, consulting, helping people find ways to connect with each other, because a lot of times people are doing a technique and they need to weave in some playback theater or some appreciative inquiry, and they specialize in a technique and they want to connect with other professionals, and they want to create relationships so they can provide better large-scale solutions for people. So we want to create an opportunity for people to do that and look at how to better advance consulting. It might even be marketing, and some of those kinds of things will be a part of that group, but really advancing and all the different things needed to do greater consulting work in the world. And then the networking is all about the community of communities, connecting, building a broad, strong, growing network of communities out there. We've got people doing great work, from people like doing NCDD to the Glen to the Central Garden concept that the World Cafe is advancing, to ODN and ISODC and NTL, organization associations, to just there's a host of people out there doing in communities that are bringing methodologies together. We also have communities around the different approaches, such as Appreciative Inquiry has a very big and well-established community and network of practice and professionals and academics and activists and leaders coming together. Future Search has the same. World Cafe, Open Space, and the list goes on. Playback Theater to Drum Cafe. There's communities of practice all over the place around the methods. We want to help them connect with each other so these communities of practice can begin to collaborate as community of communities. So we will be doing a variety of things to promote your approach, the conference, the online session, and we'll be doing a whole lot more. BGSU, the International Society for Organization Development Change, Nexus for Change are coming together for this May the 16th and to the 19th International Exchange and Summit around collaborative change. We will be at Levis Commons in Perrysburg, Ohio. And if you go back, you can see the link down there. If you click on the link, it'll give you the information on location. But essentially, we'll be at the Bowling Green State University Levis Commons at Bowling Green State University. You can come into the DTW or Toledo airports are the closest. Cleveland's close. There's other ones in Columbus and things like that if you have people you want to come in, even in Indiana and Michigan and so forth. But DTW and Detroit or Toledo are good airports to come into. Detroit, DTW is a major international airport with direct flights to a lot of countries. When we came together around the second edition of the Change Handbook, we had this gathering, and what's what you see in the visual right there. You can see, we can see David, and we see Tom, and Peter, and Peggy, Emily, Stuart. Let's see, golly, you can see Billy, Barbara. Oh my goodness! I mean, Sylvia. I mean, if I just look, there's Dick. I mean, so many cool people. There's Tom. We did an open space, and what happened? It was an amazing moment. So we did this open space, and people were organizing around what they cared about. And this room of 350 people from 25 different countries at Bowling Green State University in this huge auditorium broke up into spaces. And as you know, in open space, when you're done, you're done. You know the law of 2 feet. Only thing that happened is what could happen. When you start, you start. When you finish, and so forth. And so all of a sudden, groups were still meeting, and then some groups kind of stopped, and another group stopped, and people started coming together. And a lot of the founders and thought leaders of the different approaches began sitting down together to really think about this, looking at it from the perspective of founders of our field and of these methods and approaches, and began to exchange. And everybody kind of came over and wanted to hear them talk with each other and connect with each other. They were really enjoying spending the time together and exchanging ideas, and it became a fishbowl. And it was just the whole room of 350 people kind of came over and just sat around as they had a conversation, honoring our thought leaders, our elders, our founders, and it was just a beautiful moment, and it was a great conversation. It was really, really amazing. So we are going to have a gathering, in May. We're going to be at Levis Commons, which is in a really cool place. There's hotels. There's the Hilton Garden Inn, we're going to be using the Hilton Garden Inn, which is right in the Levis Commons building is right next to the Hilton Garden Inn. They're right next to each other. You can literally kind of roll out of your bed at the Hilton Garden Inn and go over to the BGSU campus building. We'll also be having events in the Hilton Garden Inn. So that'll be our conference hotel, if you will. So we'll be kind of blending the two of them. The Holiday Inn is walking distance, and the Economy Inn is walking distance. So we wanted to make sure we had different hotels with different price ranges to be available to a variety of people. So those hotels are within walking distance, and there's a whole bunch of more hotels that are just a little bit further away that aren't walking distance, but like a 3-minute to 5-minute drive. In addition, Levis Commons has the hotels, has shopping, have movie theaters, restaurants, live music, comedy club, and more, all within walking distance. So it's all a really nice little one-stop place for you to kind of do a lot of stuff and enjoy yourself, and to spend time at the conference as well as to do other things. Jen, you want to add anything to what I've shared so far?
I just have one kind of final thought, and that is that the world needs this work really badly at the moment. So I'm very excited to see how this next edition changes the world.
Awesome. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's really great to be with you, Jen, and I'm just super honored that you're going to be, those of you out there that are listening to this are going to be contributing your approach to this body of knowledge. And thank you for that. And with that, bye for now, more to come.